Athletes, take your mark, get set. It's time for the Addict to Athlete podcast. Hey, everybody out there, Coach Blu Robinson here. Thank you all so much for downloading, sharing, and subscribing to the podcast. We appreciate you sharing this with individuals that may be struggling with any kind of addiction, mental health issues, trauma. Addict to Athletes podcast is designed to help inspire you to change, to erase the addiction and replace it with things of greater value. Athletes, check out our website for all of our bonus content and additional material, addicttoathlete.org. And check out the backlog podcast we have. We've got lots of content for you there to download, listen to, share, and really contribute your thoughts on how to increase your own overall mental health and addiction recovery. Athletes, I've got a great guest today, one that we've tried to get on here for a while, but this man is busy, and I love it because as we were, kind of rapping before we recorded here, a lot of similarities in mindsets and whatnot, and I love it when we get people that think outside the box. And I want to introduce Wes Hurt, who's the founder and CEO of Clean Cause. And some of you out there, athletes, have heard about this. The entrepreneur and man in sobriety who is changing the outlook of being able to serve the underutilized, aspects of raising money for people who struggle with addiction through some amazing efforts. Wes, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for carving out some time, brother. Tell our listeners a little bit about you, maybe some background, and why you decided to literally turn the mess of addiction into the message of sobriety.
You got it, Coach. I mean, I wanted to say Coach. It's been a long time,
Yeah.
I did hang up the official sports in junior high, which was part of my story because I went to drugs then instead of athletics. But anyway, sorry, I digress.
You're fine.
My name is Wes. I'm a father of two Austin boys. I'm based in Austin, Texas. I'm a person in recovery or an addict, whichever one resonates with you or doesn't. And then, I'm a serial entrepreneur. And you started a company called Clean Cause, which is a sparkling beverage company, again, based in beautiful Austin, Texas. And we donate 50% of the net profits to support individuals in recovery from alcohol and drug addiction.
50%.
Yeah, and our go ahead.
I'm just kind of blown away again because as we were talking beforehand, Wes, and you know this, the industry of any kind of addiction recovery process is typically about making as much money as possible. 50% of any business going to help someone, to a donation, to a cause. That almost seems like like business suicide. Tell me about your mindset behind that. Like, why is that even something that resonates with you?
Yeah, for sure. 7 years ago, my story, I'm not unique per se. The actual stories and particulars and the flavors of my consequences might be a little bit different, but they all have the same root cause, an addiction of some sort that causes the consequences that are not desirable or positive. But when I look back at excuse me, I apologize. I sleeping awesome. So what was the
You're
question?
You're fine, brother.
What was the question again?
Just kind of why the mindset of wanting to donate 50% of your proceeds to people in recovery?
You mean like the biggest question? I forgot.
The biggest question, because when I saw your logo on the sparkling cans and I'm like 50%.
Yeah,
brother, that's like in business world, that's execution. That's how you keeping your lights on.
So 7 years ago, this is where I was going. Apologize. So I was sitting there, and I was, finally getting the opiates out of my system. My last couple of years were on the opiates and went to just a different level. But for all the years, 20 years before that, I'd always been seen as kind of a creative guy, a guy who was aspirationally wanted to be an entrepreneur and stuff. But drugs and alcohol were always present too.
Yeah.
You took those away, you go to this reacclimation period of biochemically, but emotionally and spiritually. And honestly, for me, it came to a place of like identity crisis, or do I have anything to give? Right before I got sober, I hung out in the cemetery for 9 months and I wanted to kill myself. And I'll never forget saying like, God, I have nothing to give the world. Because when you removed my liquid courage, so to speak, or my pills, or the things that allowed me to think abstract and creative, and do I have anything? And, there was a period of time where it just felt dead, kind of. There was no activity inside of me. You don't have a lot of your natural things firing that you might if you weren't. And so that, you got to be patient. It's very difficult with that road back to that, where your synapses and everything's just hitting neurotransmitters or whatever I know just enough to be dangerous. But
yeah,
I guess my point is that, I'll never forget sitting there and when the idea was born. I literally, it was born on the mission to give 50% back. I was sitting in a room of a 12-step meeting, and I go, fuck, what am I going to do with my life? How am I going to get out of this? I'm not going to live. Even though I don't have the drugs, there is nothing here. And then 50% just popped in my head. And I go, I want to do something radically different. And then I go, but what do I know, dude? And I was like, boom, recovery. I'm just going to leverage my story in the sense of just going out there. And I say leverage now, but I did, I mean that in a positive way. And, it's like, I look back and I'm like, wait, what? How? So we started with a mission. I don't know. It was born on the mission of giving 50% back. And then it went to a name, and then it went to a product. So oftentimes it goes the opposite way. But super grateful to have done that. But okay, so why is that a good idea? Early on, I knew that I wanted something with purpose. I needed an explicit North Star. In the way that I felt inside when I thought about addiction and recovery and how intimate and how integral it was just in thoughts of every day, I'm like, dude, I need that. And I want that. It's like a calling of sorts. It's what I sync up with. It's the language I'm speaking and so forth. So I think some of it was born of that. But the flip side was that I also am a marketer in the sense of knowing disruption and this idea of, I bought in really early in this, man, that I can have, investors can have 100% of 50 million or 50% of 500.
Yeah.
It's actually the byproduct of giving is receiving exponentially.
Yes.
I didn't say linear. I didn't say one. I said exponential because
drill down on that, brother. Listeners, listen to what he's saying. Athletes, check it out. Listen to what Wes is saying here.
So what I'm saying is oftentimes we put like a PS. I miss you so much and love you, and I wish I was there holding you. That's the first line.
Yeah.
Bring that to the.
Yep.
That's the first line. PS is let's grab a taco next time we're in town. But the intimacy, the vulnerability, the thing that we all know optically might feel good to have, or like, oh, let's put something social in there, or we do this or that. Like, those are all good and noble. But what I started to see is that I didn't feel like I was believing in things that claimed impact or this or that. And I wanted to be convicted. I wanted to be compelled. And what you start to see is when you differentiate yourself on purpose and not just product, and it's real and people feel that, and you stand through the fire of the skepticism, the pessimism, which I should mention is not a horrible thing. It speaks to a society that hasn't followed through with what its commitment said before. Yeah. And so I'm working off a precedent, and I'm okay with that because we see it as an opportunity, as a differentiation to pull people into the conversation, to give them visibility, to them empower them to say, look, it's not just happy horse shit. It truly is in giving that you receive. And so beyond I can tell you right now, we've had big investors because they get it. They think big. They look at the horizon. They understand, or at least a part of something they want to be that could have a societal shift. I'm not saying me. I'm saying we. There might be an opportunity within this business to be able to catalyze other folks to capture and lead with the heart, but with a fiscal responsibility and the right team that's on the flip side, which is the yin yang, which makes it lethal. So if I tell you I create a product of equal or greater value than anyone's out there, the product. So it functions equal or greater, and I tell you I'm going to give you half away, and we actually do it, and we actually show you where it goes, and the impact because you're investing in the right things, because I don't consider it giving, I consider it investing.
Yes.
Because giving, I can give you water, or what's the old adage, teach a man, give a man a fish, he'll live a day, teach a man a fish, and teach a man to fish.
Exactly.
And so I look at clean and I tell people, when you buy Clean Cause, I know it sounds a little cheesy. You're helping people recover in your community, but you are. You're not giving them a bottle of water. You're investing in their life where they're building new recovery routines and looking for a job, which has a downstream effect in the communities. Are we doing a ton today? No, not by the numbers, relatively speaking, but you have to start somewhere. And by that, when I say we're not doing that, what I mean that I'm not trying to diminish or to
No.
act falsely humble. It speaks to the size of this problem. And I also
Yes.
want to say from a humility standpoint, which I am an egomaniac with low self-esteem. I've always been that. But
Yeah.
but it's this impact, and what you start to see is people on their face when they've received a scholarship, which is what we do. We do sober living scholarships. So people are fresh off the streets, out of jail or out of rehabs. And it's just meant to be a space for grace, man, like a bridge from rehab to reintegration. It's only a moment, and you know better than I how expensive healthcare is. You know how difficult it is. You know how long the road back is. All we're trying to do is give them one little lily pad to jump on and say, now stick, hold. Start developing those legs and jump to the next one. I know it's not easy. But without that continuum of care and coming back to kind of the root cause or the root sequence of needs, Maslow's hierarchy was one that we said, look, let's give them some shelter, presumably safe, and we do whatever we can do. Let's say that they're valued, and you know what? Let's not ask them for anything in return.
No, Wes, that's spot on, brother. That is spot on. Because that lily pad that you're talking about is the most crucial foundation in the pond. It's when you're in residential treatment, you're pretty much taken care of. Then all of a sudden that comes to an end because of either insurance and or hopefully you get through it. And then where? That sober living aspect to this is so crucial and so under, I guess, valued to a certain degree, because sometimes these guys get in there and I'm telling you, man, a lot of times, Wes, you know this as well as I do, the industry needs and wants money. Now, granted, they're businesses. But sometimes it's like, you guys, you're taking advantage of people that don't have means to anything. And so you may say, yeah, small numbers from your inception. Your website is well over 2,000 people you've helped with over $1 million. But as you know, the epidemic right now, we're losing 250 people a day to overdose addiction now because of all the stuff that's going on. But still, that's 2,253 people that now have another day to fight, to recover, to heal.
Yeah, and I think, it's, again, to speak to the humility part, like clean cause is not the solution, but we're gonna fucking be part of one.
But that's the thing, Wes. I want your opinion on this. I heard this once, and I want your thoughts because you belong in this tribe. And what I mean by that, brother, is I once heard that each of us, exponentially through our lifetimes, have the potential to change, literally change, upwards of 70,000 lives vicariously through interactions, through people knowing us. The things that we can do throughout our lives, we can change up to 70,000 lives directly. Yeah. Wes, at that rate, if you do it, the math, which I suck at, that's 8,000 people to change the world. So each of us that do these small parts can contribute to a large whole.
No question.
Right?
No, in aggregate, we use our particular gifts and skill sets. And, that speaks a little bit about to our business model and what I think is kind of flawed. Not flawed, I guess, maybe not the ideal. You look at... Sorry. I just heard.
You're fine, man. You just keep rolling with it.
So many things that just run through my mind, But what was important to me when this model was set up is that it was a sustainable one. Part of the problem with nonprofits is they don't make profit.
Here.
And so, it's not about the money when people hear me say that out there. It's about sustainability. It's about enabling the people who originated these nonprofits with the pure hearts, but might not have the business acumen or something. That's not supposed to be their skill set.
Thank you. We're 10 years into this, Wes, so I think you get what we're doing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you can't keep the lights on, then it doesn't really matter how great your heart is. And so it's about an intellectual honesty of understanding the landscape, in my opinion, of nonprofits and not getting hurt feelings when you say we got to make money. We have to make it sustainable, and quite frankly, that's the people who have the money, the philanthropists, are looking for organizations who are looking for more sustainable methods. It's not a one-off gift. It's an investment in lives. Yeah. That's the idea. So, it's not like I knew all of this right out of the gates or some just genius was like, this is what we do. It's in giving that you receive. I've been given visibility to thousands of lives and what's really happening. When I travel, I get out of the plane and I Google, where's the worst place in this town? And I drive straight there. And I get on my fucking rental car and I walk up and I go, what's up, guys? What's going on? I go, I need to feel this. What's happening in Seattle? What's happening here in Ohio? What's happening? I need to feel the streets for a minute and get the honest eyeball answers of where the compassion is and not, and what's going on. And like, dude, like that's a gift that I like, I forget daily, but sitting here telling you, because I have all my first world problems I want to bitch about. And I'm saying, you know what? I show up to these places and it gives me an understanding to remember, like, dude, I have my life today.
Absolutely.
Just to put something in perspective really quick, I just got to do this too.
Do it.
Like, what was it, like 5 days ago or something? Alec Baldwin, right? Accidentally, shot someone. The feeling in me and that pain that I feel for him, for the other family, was kind of odd. It's a different level for me for some reason. I can't completely put my finger on it. But what I do know is that any problem that I think I have today is nothing compared to the grief and tragedy of such an event that just happened. And I say that to try to, if you're listening out there and you're in a moment of like, damn, it just keeps getting darker, well, maybe we need to change the light bulb, saying, hey, hold on, we have everything we need, everything and more. And I can tell everybody on this deal right now, does money take the sting out of life? Hell yeah, it does. Because I like AC in Texas, all right? I want to go up in the mountains and stuff. But I can also tell you, I know 20 people that are worth tons of billions. And I can tell you that does not make them happier. And it never did in and of itself. Anyway.
Wes, you bring up a good point, and part of that, brother, is because, and I can feel the energy that you're throwing off, and it's because, believe it or not, and a lot of people wouldn't believe this, that I've noticed, myself included, in my own path to recovery and sobriety, and eventually healing from all the garbage we went through, is that there's a lot of empathy that we have for people that hurt. And I believe, and I'm a firm believer, that people that struggle with addictions, our hearts are a little too big and they hurt a little too deep, and we carry the problems of everybody else as we're growing up. We find the substance that helps calm our pain, but we keep bringing others on. And so when you legitimately start getting clean and sober and you start seeing other people in pain, it does, man. It aches that heart. I kind of wish more people would tune into that. We'd probably have a lot less issues in this country, in this world, if we'd start feeling instead of judging. And you see it a lot. I'm sure people think, why in the world would you be dumping 50% of profits into people that really are choosing to stay addicted?
Yeah,
you've heard it before, right? You've heard that.
Yeah, there's a lot in there. I mean, I've gotten everything. Your brand's called Clean, and you're saying my son. I mean, I've gotten it all, and I'm not mad about it though. I'm like, damn, dude, this is the reality. This is the way they felt. I've got 2 kids. So when you back up and get behind the comments of people or behind the eyeballs and their hearts, you're able to identify the root cause of things,
Spot on.
And then you can address, I think, yeah, dude, in terms of the empathy and compassion that we are able to have kind of a heightened sense, which I call really, I sometimes chalk it up as an emotional intelligence. And,
yes,
I'm so grateful for getting my ass kicked in life and God giving me the affliction of addiction. Because what's interesting about it, and this is happy horse shit and it's real. Both can, 2 things can be true at the same time. That the darker it is, the brighter the light, and the contrast, and it's and put another way, it's darkest before dawn, and it can stay dark for a long time, but without understanding, or not without understanding, but because of the reality of going to one end of the spectrum that was about as dark as it can be, and then coming the other way now, because most people don't experience that in their lives. You have a fucking opportunity to live life more fully.
Absolutely.
And appreciate it more. It's a gift, but you don't realize it. So I'm getting, like, I have a little lawsuit right now. It's really something silly. But the reality is we're small today. If that happened in 5 years, it would be a massive problem. TYG, and I'm talking about God, but not just the one in the churches or the Bible. I'm just saying, if you're out there, I'm just saying, look, that's a blessing. It took me 2 days to figure that out.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, wait a minute, man, you're looking out.
Yep.
Looking out, whoever that is. So I guess, yeah, I go
You
all
love
over the
it.
place because I get pumped up about this stuff.
Yeah.
And I've had too much caffeine. I'm not sure, chicken or the egg. But dude,
It's good though.
Yeah,
it's good because I can hear your passion, man, and that's the same thing that I do too, and I feel it, and I'm pushing through some of those crappy experiences and the people that try to bring you down, and at the end of the day, like you just said, at the end of the day, you do your best, but you walk in that door and you see those two little guys that are your boys, and you see your family system, and you're like, damn, I am the luckiest man in the world. Tell me about that, brother, because you've mentioned your kids a few times. How awesome is it for you to have been in a situation where you were contemplating even sticking around on this little ball of mud called Earth to now becoming a father and a dad, and these little guys are looking up to you, and they don't know all the struggles that you have, but they're like, damn, Dad's kind of a superhero as he's coming through all this. What's it like being a dad to you?
I mean, shit. You finally have empathy for your parents.
Yeah.
Because you're not able to identify really the depth of love because you haven't experienced it firsthand. And, when I look back at my darkest days and the trauma essentially I put my parents through, like, I'm blocking corners of tables for my kids trying to, bump into them. I'm not talking about taking 35 biking in a day, smoking crack, and ending up homeless. That's what it looked like for me. But my kid slamming his head, and I'm scared shitless. I have no risk tolerance for myself per se, but for my kid, like everything. It's like, wait, that's a pill bug. Will it hurt? Are we sure they don't bite? It's like, so the love is unbelievable. I'll say a couple things too that may not be kosher to people out there who've lived just a
But it's real. Please.
life in terms of like, I think largely like my kids helped save my life over 7 years too. And, people are always like, you can't recover for somebody else. I'm like, well, bullshit. You can.
Yes.
I'm not saying that's the ideal. All of us should have it in and of ourselves, within our hearts, that then we just emanate love because we have self-love. Bullshit. Sometimes you make life sacrifices.
Yep.
You've made a commitment by being a father or whatever it was on earth. So I guess what I'm saying is I truly believe they've helped save my life a couple times where, I've come to a fork in the road and I said, I would have to tell them goodbye if I choose that path. Like I'd have to look at these little eyes and say, no, dude, I'm going to Belize and I'm going to check out on Earth and I'm out. Bye. We'll see you on the afterlife. And so it's a different kind of question, and it's a dramatic question, but it was real, But let me also say something that 7 years hasn't looked just fucking beautiful.
No.
It's looked like life.
Yeah.
And that's what I call it now. And I'm like, damn, I recently went through a divorce. And you don't get married to get divorced.
Exactly.
And then the shame I feel around that as a man, but also, just as a man who thought he was pulling it together and all of this, and then you build this company. Well, guess what? Clean became my drug of choice for a while. I was grasping for purpose, One thing I would ask everybody out there too, and I'm sorry, I'm just going to do this one on the fly. It's, dude, like, this is not... This is a rhetorical question because they can't answer it. I
love those.
But also just for them to think about today, like, and this is, what is the purpose of life?
Boom.
And here's why. I'm not going to prescribe one. But if you don't have a North Star, what guides you? I mean, it can
Damn,
be,
dude.
It can be something like love and all. I get it. But can we get more specific? It doesn't have to be Wes's purpose.
No.
It's 50%. The profits, because he's going to be the Bill Wilson of business. It's like, no, I'm not. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just like, try to walk around this weekend or whatever you have and go, dude, aside from anybody else and sitting around and trying to have these intellectual conversations by yourself, look in a mirror and try to answer like, what is my purpose, if anything? And it's okay if there's not. And I'm not implying it has to. I don't know, but I'm just saying, how do you drive on a road trip to get to the mountains if you don't have a map? If you
Spot
don't
on.
have a GPS, if you don't, and so I questioned myself over the last years, and I was like, what have I been looking to or calling upon, or what words or something guide me?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's, dude, addiction for me was not, it's not running from anything, it's running towards something. You know?
Absolutely.
Fuck that. I'm sick of like this idea of like, I'm blessed to be in life and all of the upside. It's not about
Yeah.
holding crosses up as I drive down the street and see a Budweiser billboard. I don't.
Yeah.
If I wanted to do that, and if my emotional feeling, even in the midst of the grief and pain of divorce or whatever else it might be, was if I thought it was better with the drugs, I'd be there. I wouldn't be on this podcast. I'd be out.
Exactly.
And I sell in quotes every person in recovery that I'm trying to get in to come drink some of this Kool-Aid. I go, dude, I wouldn't be there. Do you trust me knowing that I used to party with you the way I did? Then you know my heart. I'd be there. Because I'm not interested in not feeling something, A, B, really believing something, because I know that when I use pure cocaine, I know what I'm getting.
Absolutely.
Okay? And I also know that when I wake up in the morning where I haven't been crying, trying to talk about God all night, or when I'm sitting there looking at the birds through the windows, I also know what I'm getting. That investment is no longer worth it in my life, because I acknowledge the fact and recognize that my life
man. Well, because we've been convinced that addiction means that we are, we are less than, we are no good, that we are kind of the lost cause. That's not true at all. In fact, when you turn the mess into a message, like you've been doing, like we do here on the team, you start seeing that all of a sudden we have the ability to inspire. We have the ability to draw attention and to say, hey, if he can do it, maybe I can do it. When I first started this team, when we started running 5Ks, I had 5 people that were like, I'll give it a shot, but I'm an ex-heroin addict. I don't think I could run around the block unless I'm getting chased by the police, right? And now, 10 years later, we've got thousands of athletes. We're opening chapters up all over the country. And I'm like, this is simply because they thought I'm not an athlete. Well, yeah, but you're really not an addict either. So that sole purpose you're talking about, such an important factor. And you don't have it if you're stuck in addiction and you're in that depression line.
Yeah, and
once you jump ship and start finding it, life changes pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I think anybody in life wants the answer when we're in a place of distress. Okay, like if X, Y, or Z is happening, like I just want it to go away. I'm like I want something, and so at times you can't. You have to be patient. At times you're like, oh, patient. What is this? Like some zened out, long-haired dude saying, just wait for it. I promise it will show up. Well, here's the deal. Let me give you something more practical, in my opinion, to finding your purpose. A lot of people, including myself, when I say, what is my purpose? And I'm just going to say one thing, I'm like, oh, God, it's hard. It's hard to wrap that up. So instead of trying to identify it and then feeling hopeless because you see someone that you think they have their purpose nailed, but you don't have one, you're like, well, fuck, I don't have purpose and I can't figure that out. Well, what I started doing at the beginning too is start to realize, even within a particular day, like what's my purpose for today? What's my greatest value today? I started focusing on absolutely knowing what was not my focus or my purpose. So by process of elimination, if you say, I know I don't know exactly what my purpose is, but I damn sure know what it's not.
Boom.
And so my point is something happens when you start making progress about cutting off the fat off of a steak or whatever the heck it is. We probably got some vegans out there too, so we'll say something else. I don't know, avocado, good fat, good fat. But I mean, there's there's just a lot of power in that.
There is. There's a lot, and I love that. And listeners, what Wes is talking about is very important, specifically if you're on the cusp of making that decision to maybe pursue sobriety, because. For me, Wes, you're speaking my language, brother, because I tried a lot of different things. I thought maybe I could be, maybe the teacher. Couldn't do that. I thought maybe I'd be the healer. Saw blood for the first time. Nope, can't do that. I found out that my sole purpose is to serve. And I found a niche to do it through serving people as a therapist, as a coach to this nonprofit organization, to my family, to my religious, mindsets, everything. When I jump tracks and get out of that method of service, that's when the depression sneaks in. That's when I start getting out of balance. That's when my North Star becomes my South Pole star and things get completely turned upside down. So you're right, man. And that
But it's
process
so,
of elimination, boom.
why do you think, okay, so why do you think you go outside of that lane? What attributes to going outside of the lane if we intellectually, consciously, and I think you believe that the alternative's better because you've seen the return on that life investment, as I like to
Yeah.
call it.
Yeah.
So what do you think it is?
That's for me. It's that ego that sometimes comes sneaking back in. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's that self doubt, that imposter. You know, like, dude, I mean, I'm a high school dropout that went back and found like some kind of niche. I feel like I suckered the college out of giving me a diploma. Like I really feel like an imposter sometimes. So when I start getting in my head, I start pulling back a little bit. And as soon as that North Star, which is service-oriented mindset, as soon as that starts to shift, and all of a sudden my North Star turns into my East, and the West turns up there, I'm like, I'm done. So then I've got to start, doing things more for me, serving myself again, getting back into things that I needed to go for a run in the morning, all that stuff. So being mindful, man, is huge. I love that you said that process of elimination. Like, oh, I'm taking on too much of other people's issues. Now I'm trying to be a god over them or a steward over them. I can't do that. I can help guide them and serve. Can't do it for them.
It can be a depth, a really deep one, or it can be a daily one. Like,
Yeah.
I know today this is not the most me getting on X, Y. I don't know. I try to give folks or try to encourage people with very practical actions they can take, that because it's always difficult to read some like quote on Instagram and it be like so beautiful. And then you're like, cool, how do I take, like, to me, it's like action to advocacy, insights to action. It's like take the next, just do the next right thing. Okay, well, what's the next right thing? Okay, the next right thing is not to do the next wrong thing. That's what it is. Okay, so do that first, and then you're already doing the right thing. Okay, so I don't know. Anyway,
But that's the thing, though, is that's my thing. Is that most people in situations like myself and like you, who one day maybe take a step back and look at the bigger picture for a moment instead of that precise kind of like sniper type mindset where we're just looking through the scope. We take a step back and we see the bigger picture. It's like, I think I could do something for this. That mindset of like, I'm going to stick my neck out, I think people in recovery are very good at. But the problem is they don't have that next step after that next step. And it's like, I'm curious, once you had the idea for Clean Cause and once you had the process start moving, how did you not get nervous and retract? How did you just keep going? Because I think sometimes people don't realize, I sign every podcast off with go turn your mess into a message. But some people are like, but maybe my story holds no value. Like, your story is what creates your whole like existence. Don't keep it anonymous, share it from the rooftops. But like, why do you think so many people feel like, well, no one's going to give a shit what I think or what I'm doing, so why try?
I'll challenge the pretense maybe to say I'm not sure. I think it's more fear. It's just, I think both are valid, but for me or the folks that I know, like, vulnerability is power. Giving, you get. Service, you feel fulfilled. Like, it's all the things that, like, society, it's like basically zig when society zags.
Right.
Because if they're doing it and it's all in unison, there's a good chance it's probably not the best for your heart and soul. But to your point, I think it's mainly fear. Like, dude, we just don't want to be seen. I mean, there's still layers of me, do I still struggle with porn at times? Yeah, I do. And I'm willing to tell them that, the people. Like, that's not awesome. That sucks. You know? And it feels kind of gross. And I'm like, I'm kind of gross. And I even admit I'm like a dude, but it's like, oh, but everybody does it, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, stop. It's not about what everybody's fucking doing. It's what it's doing to your heart. What is it doing to your soul? What is it doing to your mind? Stop looking at everybody else for a minute and say, what is your North Star? Not what is everyone else's North Star.
Absolutely.
Don't focus about their purpose. What is your purpose? Well, you know what it's not, so just don't do those things and you start moving towards your purpose. About fear, about your vulnerability. Vulnerability is freedom if it's done in the right dose in the right ways.
Oh, brother, say that one more time. Listeners, listen closely. Freedom is what?
Well, vulnerability is freedom if it's done in the proper way. It's
Yes.
and we don't. And then what's crazy, like, and you've gotten experiences. It's like someone tells you a secret about life after you become vulnerable, and it's like and then you have like the person that tried to kick your ass in junior high that caused you trauma. That's me. Um, Circle back 30 years later and say, I've been following you, man, and I'm in recovery, and thank you.
Yeah.
What?
Mind blowing.
What?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? And and then you try to do it at next level by me talking about my pornography or whatever. It's like I'm trying to relate to the person out there that might be struggling with eating ice cream because, look, my flavor of affliction. That's it. But
Yeah.
everybody's got one. And
Yes, they
here's the
do.
thing, it touches everyone's soul the same way. And that's my opinion. It touches our soul the same way. Why does addiction maybe get more attention, so forth, from a societal or moral, secular, whatever you want to call it, standpoint? Because the consequences, in my opinion, are outward facing. They're material. They manifest with me showing up late to work by crashing cars and things.
Yep.
Well, obesity from eating too much ice cream might drive up my premium societally, but no
Yeah.
one's going to see that and no one cares. And it helps you and me. If I can point to Coach Blu and say, Coach, but he watches way more porn than Wes. I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah,
By,
exactly.
by the
The
way, guys,
comparison.
I'm not a porn addict. I'm just using porn, okay, as the case study. Everyone, they're like, yeah, you are.
Gotcha.
You
I
wouldn't
follow
say
you.
that if you weren't. Oh, like shit. Anyway,
I
but
got you.
yeah,
That's how it is. And when we do
it's
that,
how
we
it
we
is.
we dumb
It's just
ourselves
how it
down.
is.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't
Dude,
know.
I love Wes. I love your mindset, man, and I can understand how, because even me, when we started Addict to Athlete, and some of the ideas and some of the approaches that I took were very against the grain. Like I said, we don't consider ourselves anonymous, and we're very much in the public eye. I
Yeah.
think being on the team tells everybody that you had or know someone that struggles with addiction, so you're a walking embassy of telling your story. And 10 years ago, that was unheard of, and we got kind of dinged. We had people say we're doing it the wrong way, we're hurting people, but here we still are. But the concept remains the same, is that there are still people that hide from this. And so you and your approach is probably so radical compared to so many other people. How in the world have you maintained your mindset that kind of goes against tradition? Because I love what you're saying. And I think we need to have people that are a little bit more progressive when it comes to, like, there's no single one way to find this or to serve through this. How do
No.
you not jump ship and just kind of like fold to the corporation or the society and the norms that are trying to be established? How do you keep marching to the beat of your own drum?
Well, a great team that is aligned in heart first and foremost. Like,
I love it.
half the people that I work with wouldn't be here without the cause,
Yeah,
and the other half wouldn't have stayed without the cause. You know, it's not about Wes the CEO. It's a cause that's bigger.
yeah,
And so when I look at that and I say, hey, it's not Wes, you take off the S, it's we. And you look at what the power of people it's increasing the vulnerability of all.
I love it, man. I love it. I know we're kind of running out of time. You've got a hard out, but I want to know. Tell the listeners, because you've sent us some of your product, and we've ordered some. In fact, we used it a couple of, about no, not too long ago when we did a big cycling event. The team going down to a 400-mile bike race, and we had it in the cooler, man. It was great stuff. Tell the listeners a little bit about Clean Cause and about what it is, and we're gonna order some more to bring to our meetings when the podcast launches, because I want to share this with people because of the message and what you guys do. So tell them a little bit about the product.
Yeah, radical. Thank you. It's a sparkling yerba mate. For all intents and purposes, I call it better caffeine. And so it's got it packs a good punch. I don't think it has, and there's no science behind this. I don't feel kind of the hangover or crash from it, and that's why I really loved it. And it's lower calorie. It tastes damn good, and it's USDA organic. Organic, and so it's pretty dang good.
It's clean. It's clean. Yeah.
No, I've told them, and they go, it's clean. And so, the good news too is that, part of it, I've been innovating a lot lately because, not everybody drinks caffeine and not everybody drinks a shitload of caffeine, but this cause affects us all. So part of the vision always behind clean was, one day I want to have clean diapers, man. But the point is on this drink, what I would say, so I don't have to sell too hard, is give it a shot, come for the cause, and then come back for the quality. If it's not your jam, all good. Throw us good vibes. And if it's not your jam, throw us good vibes, sign up for the newsletter, and start to look for some new products coming out, because we consider this a clean energy platform and a way to get really loud. And, the truth is addiction's a big problem. It's going to require a big solution. Big solutions require big money. Big money requires lots of cans that need to be sold. So I like to say clean is a can with a plan, but it's nothing without the consumer. Give it a shot, spread the word, watch what we do, not what we say, and see if we can together, catalyze some change in this age of so much darkness,
Absolutely. Brother, it's interesting. Our podcast is getting larger. We're getting more attention to it and stuff. And people call and they're like, hey, advertising and things of that nature. But just like you're picky with who you align with. And, we've watched you for a long time and followed your story for quite a while. And like Marissa's probably, been hounding you for a little over a year now to get you on here, because we believe so much in what you're doing. And just speaking to you now and knowing that the heartbeats are kind of in the same rhythm, I'm like, it's exactly where you're supposed to be. And so we want to be a supporter to it. Listeners will attach all of the info to Clean Cause and his contact information to check out the products, to see what he's doing. Try it and see what you feel. And the newsletter, we're in it. So I know you guys produce great content as well. So Wes, thanks for carving out some time today, brother. Final message. What do you tell the person who's maybe in that cemetery themselves, in that mindset of like, what's the point? What do you tell that person that's like, maybe this darkness, it doesn't have a light at the end of the tunnel?
One thread. Grab to one thread of hope. Hope doesn't have to be the perfect answer in that moment. It's about one thread. Just hold on. And I've always explained that to people. When I was in that cemetery, I said, I got one. It's so thin, and I got one. But I can tell you that it grows, man, and it grows. And there's so many people out there that love you. There's so many people that they're behind you, no matter what level of shame you have. Shed it, because we all have that, and that's not who you are. So you got a purpose. Remember, even if you don't know what it is today, you do know what it's not. And give Clean a shot. And if you like it, throw a cheers out there and share it. And at the very end of the day, man, life's short. So, go hug the loved ones you got and make amends for shit that you did in the past, so you don't want to regret anything.
Absolutely, brother. Well said. Thank you so much for being part of this. Again, athletes, you've been well fed. I want to thank Radio Ronan and the Radio Ronan Network for assisting and hosting Team Addict to Athletes podcast. Go check out the other podcasts on the network. And athletes, until next time, please go turn that mess into